Good morning and happy Easter to you all. So glad to see you. My name is Paul, and I'm one of the pastors here at this church. And if you're visiting us here today, Redeemer is a gospel-centered, outward-facing, multi-ethnic, and intergenerational church. And what that means is that you are welcome here, that everyone is welcome here, regardless of your age, stage of life, whatever circumstances you are going through. We want to be a church community and family for you, and this is a church where we hope that you will feel so welcomed. Today is Easter, and the message of Easter is that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, died and he rose again, triumphing over sin, evil, and death, and one day he's going to make all things new. And let me tell you what. So many people's lives, millions and millions of people's lives have been profoundly transformed and impacted by the message of Easter. So many people, their lives have been transformed by Easter, going from despair to hope. If you're suffering, not living in despair, but hope, because one day Jesus is going to put an end to all suffering. From bitterness and unforgiveness to letting go, not holding a grudge, saying, I cannot forgive, I'm getting so angry. But the resurrection means that one day, God is going to make all wrongs right. I'm going to be able to let that go. From insecurity to deep assurance. How do I know, in spite of all my failures and all my weaknesses and all my flaws, I feel like an imposter, I'm going through imposter syndrome. How do I know that God loves me? He will never reject me. The resurrection says, Jesus says, it is firm and secure. You are not going to be forsaken by me. From selfishness to selflessness and sacrifice. The resurrection, the bodily resurrection, new creation means that God cares about your physical suffering and the physical suffering of people in need. And so you're impacted to no longer live for yourself, but care for the needs and the concerns of this world. From a world of gray to a world of profound color and beauty, because Jesus is one day making this physical world new. And God is the divine artist, the one who loves and creates a world of beauty. And the canvas of this world, one day he's going to beautify all things. And I've seen Christians say, I want to be part of that. I'm inspired to live in beauty. So many people's lives have been impacted, profoundly transformed by the message of Easter. And let me tell you, some of you might be here saying, wow, can that be true for me? And let me tell you, absolutely yes. So how can you experience the hope, the healing, and the joy of Easter? Today we're going to be looking at a passage where Jesus is interacting with one of his disciples named Thomas. And Thomas has this, kind of a negative vibe name known as Doubting Thomas. But this passage is so profound because in it we see a person going from unbelief to belief. And it's this climactic high profession and moment in the Gospel of John. So I'm going to read this passage. If you can follow along, it's from John chapter 20, verses 24 to 31. Hear now God's word. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands. Put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Thomas answered him, my Lord and my God. Jesus said to him, have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. And then John gives a summary. The author giving this account says, now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. This is God's word. So for the next few minutes, I would like us to consider the following question. How can you experience the hope and the joy and the healing of Easter in your life? And so what our passage says is this. Like Thomas, you have to be able to say and believe about the risen Jesus, my Lord and my God. How can you experience this transforming reality? You have to say like Thomas, the risen Jesus, my Lord and my God. So let's take a look at this. First, I want you to know that the Gospel of John is bookended by this profound profession. It begins by saying in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word became flesh. Jesus is God. And then it bookends by our reading at the end. Thomas answered him, my Lord and my God. John is saying, this is what I want you to know. This is the transforming power, the hope and the healing. My Lord and my God. Now, a couple of things to highlight here. Thomas is my Lord and my God. He does not say, my teacher and my example. He does not say that. And the reason why is because Christianity says you are not saved by the teachings and the examples of Jesus, but by the life, death, and the resurrection of Jesus. You see, John wrote all of this stuff. He says there's so many things that Jesus did, these miracles, but I'm here to curate the ones here to tell you this, and this one made the cut. Why? Because if you were saved by the teachings and the examples of Jesus, this would not have made the cut. Thomas was there when Jesus gave the teachings on the Sermon on the Mount. Thomas was there with all the teachings and all the things that Jesus said. But John says, I'm going to include this one. And this is the climactic moment of the resurrection where Thomas says, my Lord and my God. That's significant. The second thing I want you to note is it says, my Lord and my God. It's personal. It's speaking of conviction. The Scottish theologian John Murray says this. Faith is knowledge passing into conviction, and it is conviction passing into confidence. So significant. Faith is not, it's not just knowledge. If you have just knowledge saying, I grew up in the church, yes, I hold to the creeds, Lord and God, I could say those different things, I've memorized it, that's not enough. It goes from knowledge into conviction. You know, conviction is not you holding on to a set of beliefs, but those beliefs holding on to you. And it begins to shape your life. And that conviction leads to this confidence. And so when Thomas is saying, my Lord and my God, he's not just saying this creed, but he's saying conviction is taking hold of me. Confidence. Lord, you are the one who protects me. You're the one who guides me. You're the one who loves me. This is why the Apostle Paul says in Romans 8, if God is for us, who can be against us? The confidence. So in summary, how can you experience the hope and the joy and the healing of Easter in your life? You have to be able to say and believe about the risen Jesus, my Lord and my God. And as we see with Thomas, the resurrection of Christ is central to making this profession. So let's consider now the response. Responding to the risen Jesus as my Lord and my God. And I want to here just highlight maybe 3 responses. Maybe you can identify with one or some of them. The first one is this. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And that was the case with Thomas. So let me read again and highlight this section. Now, Thomas, one of the 12 called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. Commentaries say one reason why is because his world was shattered when Jesus died. And he's like, I'm going to go in a cave. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to see anyone. I'm just going to be by myself. I cannot make sense of this. He was not there when Jesus showed up with the rest. Who was not with them. So the other disciples told him, and the word told meant kept on telling him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to him, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. And that phrase, I will never believe, is emphatic in the Greek. He's planting the flag and saying, unless I see, unless I touch, I'm never going to believe. That's what he's saying. So what happens? 8 days later, the disciples were inside again. 8 days later, Thomas comes out of the cave. Come on. And he's, all right, he's hanging out with his bros. They're in a house. Jesus shows up, breaks through right through the walls. So what's happening here? Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. And Thomas answered him, my Lord and my God. Jesus said to him, have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. And I've read this so many times, and you may be wondering what I've often wondered when I read this. What Jesus says and does here is perplexing. He basically is saying to Thomas, hey, Thomas, you really don't need evidence. You don't need proof. But I'm going to show it to you anyways. It's like, he's kind of like, you don't need this, but you know what? You need this. It's like, what? It's sort of like this example that I heard. Imagine a husband and a wife, and the husband says to his wife, hey, can I hang out with my friends tonight? And the wife responds, sure, you can go. And so the husband's like, I'm so confused. So he decides not to go. And he's just kind of like moping around at the home. And his wife says, why didn't you go? I told you can go. But then when he goes, okay, I'm going to go. And his wife is really mad that he went. She's like, what is going on? You're so confusing. Jesus, what are you doing? Why is he saying this? Why is he correcting, saying, you don't need this, but you need this? And it's because of this. Jesus shows up to Thomas, not so much for his sake, but for ours and for people who are not going to see the risen Jesus. Thomas did not need to see the risen Jesus in order to be saved, but he did need to see the risen Jesus in order to be an apostle. And one of the key prerequisites of being an apostle was being an eyewitness of the risen Jesus. These 12 disciples were apostles. Jesus poured out his life. 3 years. Hang with me. Live with me. See everything. And they were witnesses of the risen Jesus. Why? Because they were going to carry on and say, we saw him. We lived with him. Listen to our testimony. We were there. So if you're listening to this going, okay. So I'm not convinced. Can I give you some thoughts from our passage? If you're saying I'm not convinced, one, can I encourage you to listen to the eyewitness account? Because that's the purpose of Thomas being included. He's saying, I saw it and I'm an apostle. That's why John curated and included this account saying, hey, Thomas saw it. See, he's an apostle. So it's saying that the resurrection of Jesus, it happened. It happened. Now here is some irony, friends. Today in our cultural moment, truth and facts are just kind of thrown out the window, aren't they? And so it's all about what is true and what are facts for you. And as a result of that vibe in our culture, there's a real sense of being unanchored. There's no sense of certainty of knowing what reality really is. And because of that, there's some suspicion. We can't trust the people or institutions or organizations or the news or what people have to say. So there's this loss of truth and facts. And isn't it tremendous irony that in the 21st century, if Christianity is the one who says, hey, you know what? Truth really matters. Hey, facts really matter. Because what John is doing in this passage is saying this. Hey, I'm not here just to write this to you so that you could have clickbait. I want you to do some fact checking. You ever done some clickbait? It's like, oh, I'm going to click that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I don't even know if that's true. This is recorded by Thomas. John records what happened to Thomas because he's saying, hey, Christianity doesn't just say, just believe and just move on. But it says, hey, this happened. Verify. Fact check. And in a world in our culture today where everyone is saying these things, there's no facts, there's no truth, it's only true for me, I'm not sure about facts, we're like, oh, I don't know what to believe. Christianity says, hey, go check it out. Jesus Christ died and rose again. Not just saying those things, hey, go check it out, verify. That's why this was included. So can I encourage you to listen to the apostolic eyewitness account? Secondly, Jesus says, do not disbelieve, but believe. A literal translation can be this: stop becoming unbelieving and start becoming believing. Because so often faith is a process. It's a process. For Thomas, it was a process. For all of us, it's a process. And so take the next step towards, but can I encourage you, if this is where you're at? It's not saying, oh, I'm ready to just cross that line. Maybe some of you are, but maybe it's just like, okay, I'm going to take that next step to consider the eyewitness accounts, what the Bible has to say. That in a world where nothing feels solid in our culture, Christianity says, I want you to know that the risen Jesus, it's built on something very solid. Go check it out. So can I encourage you to it's a process to take the next step, but secondly, to do it in community. Do it in community. Thomas is in community, and that's when Jesus shows up. When he's by himself, he's stuck. I can't tell you the number of times as a pastor I've talked to people, and they're like, let me just say this. Please do it in community. Don't just go to your friend Google and search it up and trust some algorithm AI about learning about Christianity. Where's that from? Can I encourage you to do it in a community? If you are here in San Diego, we would love to be that community with you. If you're visiting here today, I want to encourage you to find a community to be able to do so and process taking that next step. Can I invite you to do that? So that's the first. Here's the second. Some of you are here this morning and you're saying, I'm wounded and I'm deeply scarred. You're here at Easter because what you really want more than anything else is comfort. And listen, I get it. Some of you are here with fresh wounds and scars, that broken relationship, tension in your marriage or with your kids, friends moving away, loss of loved ones, a diagnosis that's freaking you out, a diagnosis of a loved one that is making you very scared. Some of you have fresh wounds. Others of you here, you've had deep wounds from the past, and you've thought you've healed from it, but all it takes is that conversation. All it takes is reading something that you see, and you're triggered once again. We come with wounds and scars. And please do not miss this in our passage. The risen Jesus bears scars and wounds. Have you ever thought the significance of that? Jesus is in his glorified body. He could look like the ultimate human. No scars, no aging, no wrinkles, no nothing. But in his glorified body, he bears the scars and the wounds. This whole passage is about the physical scars and the wounds of Jesus. Why is that so important? Why does Jesus bear scars in his risen body? Number one, proof. To show that, hey, I'm not an imposter. Here, take a look. This is me. But not only that, his scars reflect his eternal love and care for you. The risen Jesus, it reflects saying, I care for you and I understand. One of the most beautiful languages for me is one that is unspoken. It's sign language. And I don't know too many sign language words, but I know a few. The word for love is this, over my heart. The word for friend, it's connected and we have a bond together. Do you want to know what the word for Jesus is? And that makes so much sense to me. It's Jesus with the scars. Because it's communicating to you, Jesus is saying, I understand. I care. I'm grieving with you. One more. His scars address the shame that we carry behind our scars. I was thinking about this more and more. Behind all our scars, physical or not even physical, but wounded scars, there's shame. And because of that, we want so desperately to hide our scars. For some of you, physical scars from a surgery, you do your absolute best to hide that. For some of you, in your darkest moment of despair, there's scars of self-harm, and you don't want anyone to see it. When you talk about scars and shame, there's the shame, the inward shame that's inside out. And I've grieved and sat with people who are victims of abuse, and there's a sense of shame. Something must be wrong with me. But there's also outside-in shame from society where you felt the shame. And looking at everyone in this room, I know this is to be true, that there is someone at one point in your life, possibly when you were younger, maybe in junior high or high school, a teacher or a coach, a parent or a relative, who said something to you, and it was so painful. And there's downward up shame before God. Oh man, I am so messed up. I don't even like coming to church. I feel my own shame. I feel like God's seeing me. I'm never good enough. I feel like he's gonna just get me. I feel this own shame. You see, friends, all our scars and wounds underneath it carry shame. And it made me think, if that is the case with you and for me, what about Jesus' scars? What about his scars, and what does it say about his shame? We're often ashamed because we try to hide in our wounds. If our scars carry shame, what about Jesus's? The eternal scars of Jesus reveal that he experienced shame on the deepest level. But the fact that he does not hide them reveals the incredible truth that he is not ashamed of what he went through for us, and that he is not ashamed to call us his own. Oh my gosh. Jesus doesn't look at the scars and go, oh my man, I don't want to show it to you. He went through those scars for you and for me. Take a look at my hands and see my scars. He's not ashamed of all that he went through for you, and that says that he is not ashamed of you. In Hebrews chapter 2, verses 10 through 11, in bringing many sons and daughters to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through what he suffered. Both the one who makes people holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. Behind your scars there's shame, and Jesus says, I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of you. I'm not here to tolerate you. I love you. I embrace you. One of the best feelings in the world is when you're so scared and you want to confess and you say something that's been eating up your life and you don't know if they're going to respond by rejecting you, and they come and embrace you and they say, man, I love you. We've experienced the healing moment of that, and you have that in the resurrected Jesus. Isaiah 53 says, by his wounds we are healed. He is the wounded healer, and he is the shame healer as well. Here's the third response. I failed and I feel like a failure. I failed and I feel like a failure. Let's look at Thomas. Verse 25, but he, Thomas, said to him, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. I will never believe. 8 days later, then he, Jesus, said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. When Jesus says that to Thomas, what do you think is going through his mind? Here's what I think is going through his mind. This is Paul Kim's version of it. Oh my God. Jesus heard what I said. Oh my gosh. Jesus is like, gotcha. He's the Lord. It's like, well, I heard you. I gotcha. And then what? Instead of coming down on Thomas shaming Thomas, expressing his utter disappointment with Thomas for his lack of faith, the first words that Jesus says is, "Peace be with you." Dear friends, Jesus responds the same way with you. Jesus doesn't go to Thomas and say, "Gotcha," like, dude, Tom, you are now lowest ranked disciple. Lowest ranked. Go out to the back, end of the line. He says, "Thomas, peace be with you." And I want you to know that whatever you go through, you feel like a failure and broken, you're going to hear the words peace. And when he says peace be with you, he's not dismissing our sin. He's not taking it lightly. He takes it so seriously that the Prince of Peace on the cross experienced eternal violence so that you can have eternal peace. Peace be with you. He declares that over you and your failure. Oh, such good news. So in wrapping it up, how can you experience the hope, joy, and healing of Easter in your life? Like Thomas, you have to be able to say and believe about the risen Jesus, my Lord and my God. And the word believe is so central to all of this. In John 20, 30, 31, now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. And that word believe right there, two ways you could translate it. The first one is keep on believing. And I want to speak here just a moment to my Christian friends in light of the resurrection of Jesus. Keep on believing. This is not saying keep on doing. This is not saying keep on performing. If you do that, you're going to feel like an imposter syndrome. You're going to be so exhausted. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, man, I can't do that. Keep on believing. What? That Jesus is the one who keeps you. You collapse onto him. Let the gospel refresh you, renew you, comfort you, and ignite in you a movement to keep on believing. Let it strengthen you. Let the reality of the risen Jesus enable you to run the race that is set before you. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 2, I'm quoting a lot of Hebrews because we're going to go through it next week, so see you next Sunday. But Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 2, says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Keep on believing. You got the crowd, the witnesses. You have Jesus. And as I was reflecting on this passage for me this week, keep on believing, Lord Jesus. I began to imagine when Jesus finally brings me home and this race that I've been running, keep on believing. And I'm entering into the stadium that one final time to finish this race. And there's a crowd. And the crowd is saying, hey, Paul Kim is here. Wait, Pastor Paul Kim from Encinitas, San Diego is here. There's tons of Paul Kims. There's tons of them are called pastors. I don't know why. I just said, hey, Paul Kim, Pastor Paul Kim is here. As I'm in that race, slow clap. Keep on going. I want to run that race. And when I get to that end and see the risen Jesus who ran the race before me, I'm going to kneel down, cast all my crowns to him before the Lamb that was slain. And let me tell you what, if I get there before you, and if I've had the privilege as a pastor to speak the gospel in some way into your life, and you enter into that stadium, you can guarantee that I'll be standing. Let's go. Keep on believing. Rest in the one who ran in the race for you. Christian friends, you were called to live a life of great destiny and purpose. Christianity simply cannot mean I just go to church and I make a lot of money and I retire and I live a comfortable life and that is all. Keep on believing. Be gripped by the risen Jesus and all that he calls you for the purpose and the destiny that he's given and gives to you in your life. Believe. And then secondly, this word can also mean a decisive moment to believe. And so this is an invitation, a decisive moment. I've been reflecting a lot these days on the power of the moment. And what I want to do is be so present in every moment, even right now, wherever I am, to be present in the moment, to love God and to love neighbor. And as I think about my life, there were a couple of times when I think I got the moment right. One of those times was when my oldest, my firstborn, went off to college. And after spending a couple of days with them, helping them settle down, that last night, there was so much in me in my story that says, I don't want to be vulnerable, I don't want to be transparent. There's so much in me that says, I'm going to see you next month anyways, good luck. But in that moment, Linda and I embraced my son. And as we began to pray for him, tears just broke down. And we just began to weep. And I had that moment to say how much I love you. How much I respect you. I had that moment to entrust to Jesus my son's life. And that drive back home was so silent. But I look back, no regrets. And I got that moment right. The power of a moment. And for some of you, that's today. The power of this moment. Are you hurting? Are you grieving in shame, running away? The power of this moment where the risen Jesus looks at you and says, look at my scars in my hands. I'm there with you. I got you. Let me heal you. Are you here this morning feeling like a failure, like an imposter, like the power of this moment, the risen Jesus comes to you and says, peace. Peace. That's what I offer and give you. Are you here this morning wrestling with everything about, I'm not convinced about Christianity and everything? Man, the risen Jesus says, hey, I'm so patient with you. And maybe for some of you, you're ready to go, okay, I'm here to make that decisive moment, the power of the moment. And let me speak here to my Christian friends. If you've been feeling wayward, drifting, and moving apart, the risen Jesus comes to you. And he says, keep on. I ran this race for you. Keep on. I'm going to close in prayer. And what I want to do is pray a prayer blessing for all of you. So as I close in prayer, if you feel so comfortable, feel free to open your hands like this to receive. Some of you might be all timid. I don't know about that. Other people in the service was like, I need it. Here we go. Wherever you are, just in your heart or here, hey, the power of this moment. Oh, Jesus is here. He brought you here. Oh, your life can be so beautifully transformed by Jesus. Oh, he says, come back. Let me pray for you.